Let me ask you about this story about Cineworld. I don't know whether you've seen it. There's this supposedly blasphemous film about the Prophet Muhammad's daughter. I'm sort of reluctant to give this story the oxygen of publicity, but I'm going to bring it up with you because I think we find ourselves in this, like, rather sometimes these rather sort of inner bubbles inside another bubble, inside another bubble. I mean, this is a row between Shias and Sunni Muslims, right, which seems to affect very few other people outside of those two groups. But what's happened is, because of these kind of activists, it's become a news story. And I'm not sure it should be a news story in this country.
Well, let me say, first of all, I do understand when people are profoundly offended by blasphemy. I remember how I felt about The Last Temptation of Christ, Jerry Springer, the opera. But my response to that was simply not to watch on. Just not to see it. You know, I didn't need to see it in order to be further offended. You know, just forget it.
Right.
We are in a free society. But I do think that people should exercise freedom with responsibility, and religion is always something that's remarkably difficult. But yes, I agree with you. I don't actually think this is not a story like the Danish cartoons were a story, for example. I think it's much more confined than that.
Oh, it is, but the trouble is the people who are making all the noise about it are sort of talking in not really riddles, but saying things like there will be consequences if this film is published, if this film is sold to the public. You know, consequences meaning what exactly? I don't know, but it doesn't sound good.
Once people start talking about there are consequences, they can very often sound as if they're threatening, and I think that is what we're meant to take from this. And I think, sadly, Cineworld has given in. And is not showing it. Now, I occupy the position that they should never have been showing it in the first place, but given that they decided to, after that, then it's a matter of freedom of choice as to whether people go and watch it or not.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's finish up with something about the state of our prisons. You know, we're told that an awful lot of prisoners have been left watching television and not really doing very much of anything else since the pandemic. You also wrote today in your column about the sentencing of Kurt Zuma, the cat kicker. Which I found, like you, to be ridiculously lenient. I mean, surely he should have got some jail time, shouldn't he?
Well, I think, yes, for preference, but I also think that his community service should be in a cat's home, quite honest.
Yes, I wouldn't mind that. But what about the state of our prisons? Because I keep reading stories about the drug problem inside of our prisons, the shortage of staff inside of our prisons, the privatisation factors that haven't really worked. How do we fix it?
First of all, privatisation was one of the best things we ever did, and it worked extremely well. Now, I don't know what's happening now, because it was the mid-90s when I was prisons minister, but the joy of privatisation was it set a standard for the rest of the service, and the public service started to catch up with it. And one of the things that the private prisons did, which most of the public prisons, not all, there were some honourable exceptions, but one of the things that the private prisons did was to have the workshops, the education, what we used to call purposeful activity. It actually had that, and it was contracted to do it, and if it failed to do it, it had to pay a financial penalty, so by gum it did it. And idleness is the single greatest enemy of rehabilitation. Rehabilitation consists of education, offending behaviour courses, the workshops, whatever it might be, but it's got to be purposeful, and above all, it should be based on the sort of working day that you and I understand. You know, not a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there, but a full working day.
Yeah.
And yes, that can be spent in a mixture of the education department and the workshops, but it must be a full working day. I said that until I was forced with saying it. And certainly when I was there, the prison population suddenly expanded. The prison service at the time said to me, well, can we reduce the targets for purposeful activity because we've now got to spend an awful lot more of time on security because of the expanding numbers? And I said, no. I said, far short of reducing it, I'm actually going to put it up because that is a crucial part of the prison system. It's not just about warehousing.
No, exactly right, because the tireder these people are when they go to bed, the less likely they are to be in any way sort of, recalcitrant or revolutionary or anything else. You know, let them do a good day's work, even give them some money or something for which they can get benefits while they're there. But, you know, give them some incentive to do something other than nothing.
And the joy of giving them proper wages would be that you could also take proper deductions.
Yes.
Deductions for victim reparation, deductions for savings for when they leave, deductions for family upkeep. You could do all of that. So you would inculcate not only the habit of an orderly working day, but the habit of an orderly distribution of income.
Yeah.
Some crazy reason that isn't what's done. And it's not about getting them tired at the end of the day. It's about getting them used to working when they leave. I think most people don't understand that 75%, and I do mean that, 75% of those who come into prison are illiterate or innumerate.
Yeah.
They've truanted from school, they've been excluded from school, they've never worked, they live on the dole. You have to change that.
Exactly right. And it doesn't sound difficult. It sounds like perfect sense. Thank you very much indeed. Anne Widdecombe, read her column in the Express today. This is talkTV.